Welcome to Affording College with Aaron Green, founder and president of College Liftoff.
All right, thanks, Deep Throaty Guy. So welcome back to Affording College with Aaron Green. This is our second season doing this, and if you're unfamiliar with what we do here and what gives me the right or wrong reason to be able to talk about this stuff, it's I have a company that does college planning. It's called College Liftoff. We work with families and students every day on preparing for higher education, academically, financially. How do you really plan for something in a day and age where college costs the equivalent of a house? We use a lot of the conversations we talk about at College Liftoff as the basis for the conversations we have here. We take a lot of our inspiration from the surrounding media, environment, what's going on in the world today as far as college is concerned, and just the conversation that families and parents are having at the dinner table, to themselves, to family, to friends, and just how do you do this whole college thing today when, again, we're talking about a cost structure that's going to basically be their house. So anyway, today we thought we'd start off with an interesting topic. I actually have with me the Director of Operations at Bo Jackson Elite Sports. His name is Aaron Conrad. And our Director of Marketing at College Liftoff, Alexandra Green.
Hi.
Hello.
So we thought we'd just get into a little bit about the sports side of this thing and what it means.
Yeah, I've really wanted to start this season with this topic, being that we just had all the collegiate sports, all the bowl games. We just have March Madness is around the corner, and we are coming up to Super Bowl season.
Mind you, Alex is a Clemson grad. I'm going to say that out there. So it's been a really good bowl season.
Well, it was a good bowl season for me, but at College Liftoff, we obviously do not push one college over another. And while I was very happy to see my Clemson Tigers win, I had a great. I love this school, but maybe this is for another day. It was not an academic fit for me. Had I had a company like College Liftoff back when I was in school, I might not have ended up there. But I really enjoy the football team.
Yeah, and no discredit to the school at all. It's a great school. It's just, we talk about that a lot. Like, what's the proper academic fit for you as an institution?
It was a great social fit. Academically, I think that if I had chosen another school, my life would have gone in a different direction. So
very true.
It all worked out. Here I am.
Mm-hmm.
But I really I will leave my sports biases out. I really wanted to talk to Aaron today because as a parent, I'm a parent, and I know that every parent that has their child in sports from the peewee level on up, at some point it flickers through their mind like, wow, if my son gets really good or my daughter gets really good at this, maybe, just maybe, this will help them when it comes to college, and so I just kind of wanted to see, is that what you're seeing? I mean, what do you see from...
First of all, thank you for having me today. It's exciting. Our partnership with College Liftoff is exciting for us, especially as a parent myself. So I serve kind of a dual role because I am the director of operations for a facility, but I also have 3 athletes in my home. So I kind of sit in 2 different places and wear a lot of different hats when it comes to that. So sometimes I have to put on my dad hat, and sometimes I have to put on my facility hat. But I think we see that. I think so often we see. I guess from the dad perspective, I know many times as we were following different, as they got older and as they played sports, we found that multiple times we found ourselves at some tournament somewhere or looking at the bill for whatever team or travel team or league or whatever it might have been and said, how did we get here and how much are we paying again? And I think as parents, we follow that stream that it just takes us on. It's that next team. It's that next league. They got to be on this. They have to wear this. They have to do this. They have to be in these practices. They have to do this. And, so I think that's the caution that at some point you really have to, I think again, speaking as the dad and not for our facility, I would say as a family, we have multiple times shut down something that we just felt like there was no more runway. Whether it was gymnastics when I know one of my daughters was like 8 years old and spending 4 days, 4 hours per day at a gymnastics, gym, and that's great. There's nothing wrong with that. But for her, there was no runway. It wasn't. We're not going to the Olympics.
Okay.
For her, it was, hey, you need to be playing with other girls and playing with dolls and talking about boys or whatever it might be, and enjoying life. Because we're not going to go to the Olympics here. We're not going to. She was good but not great, kind of a thing. And I think so. Sometimes you have to have a hard conversation. As the parents, you have to have a hard conversation to say, is there really any runway left here, or is this just something that we're doing which is great. Sports are wonderful. We all know the benefits of those. But I think at some point you have to almost reach that point where you have to have a really hard conversation to decide, is there a future here, whether it be college or past and beyond that, or is it, do we need to look at maybe moving them to a different league or maybe moving to a different sport altogether?
That's tough because, that's it's how do you come to that question, as a parent? Because and how do you know what's too much for an average everyday parent? How do you know what's too much? Like you mentioned, like 4 days a week, 4 hours a day. That for an 8-year-old, that's
a lot.
That's a lot. So that you can really take a look, especially if you have multiple kids. You can really see, like, oh my goodness, that's quite a bit.
But how do you get to that point where you know that, okay, this is not going to go all the way. This is not going to go to the Olympics. I mean, I feel like as a parent, sometimes it's really hard. You're like, well, it's almost like gambling. Like, well, if we just put a little bit more time in, you never know. You know.
Well, and I imagine too, in that same vein, you have a lot of in the best way possible enablers in that are like, saying like, oh, your kid can do this, then this, that, and the other. And, no fault of the fact that they're trying to run a business, which is probably a gym or something along those lines. But how do you know how to sift through the noise?
Right. I think those are all great questions. And for us, and I can only speak from my own personal experience with it. And I can tell you it was one of the tougher conversations I've had as a dad, to sit down and just say, and what we did in this scenario, I'll play the whole scenario out. What we did is we just finally, for our daughter, she continued to get hurt, and it came at the time. Gymnastics is a sport where there's just a lot of risk of injury, and so I think she cracked her kneecap one year. She suffered a couple of concussions and some other things, and so we just said there's probably just not that future here for her, and she kept getting hurt, so she was practicing like crazy, but always missing competition because she was hurt, and so. For us, we just decided that it was time to try something different. So that's what we said is, you know what, you can try anything you want. We will support whatever you want to try. It's just not going to be gymnastics anymore. And so she actually moved on, and she did. So I think that summer she tried a track club, and she went out for basketball, and she tried multiple things, and she ended up playing basketball for a few years and was actually pretty good at it, and ran. And now, so fast forward to middle school, and the gymnastics team on the middle school, so she actually was ready and stepped into middle school, and now she's actually a high school gymnast without all that practice. So it worked out well for her. She was actually very experienced. She learned a lot in those years, so there was nothing lost in that time.
Okay.
And she got to go back to her passion of gymnastics for a little while in high school and middle school. What I didn't mention was that there was a Lexus car payment attached.
Yeah.
To those 4 hours, 4 days a week practices that, we ended up she ended up diving at Ohio State for a Lexus car payment, 4 hours, 4 days a week at the pool instead of in the gymnastics thing. But anyway, so it all worked out well. And for her, she's able to still chase that passion, but not to the extent of having future dreams.
Gotcha.
And actually, I would say that in that summer that she tried new things, she found the passion of running, and actually is very good at track. And there's a chance that she will probably get a scholarship in track. She missed states by just a fraction of seconds in hurdles. So, as a freshman, so she's got a bright future ahead of her there, and she may not have discovered that if she was still in that gymnastics gym, those days a week. So, and that's just one story, and that's ours. But everybody has their own.
Well, it sounds like she found, and again, I know it's different for everybody, but it sounds like she found some enjoyment in the sports that she wanted to do versus trying to make this a job, make it a thing that you have to now. You've put all this time and money and effort into it, and now it's got to pay off, and this big college scholarship and all these things that are now built up. That's become part of this conversation about the sport. One truth is, let's just start with enjoying it,
right,
and get it down to the basics, and getting all the intangibles out of it, and then, if there's something that comes with it, fantastic.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely. I remember at one point, several weeks afterwards, we were driving the car, and I said, hey, do you miss gymnastics? And she said, I miss my friends. which that to me was it was sad because But then she made new friends, and she was on new teams with new teammates, and that's what sports is all about.
Yeah,
is making friendships. And so, but it wasn't. I missed the gym, I missed the workouts, I missed the balance beam. I missed my friends. So ultimately for her, that's how that worked out.
Gotcha.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's one reason we here at College Liftoff really appreciate our partnership we have with Bo Jackson Elite Sports. Your perspective, as a dad, but also as the director of operations, is just so great. In that, your mission is to, create like the athlete, to serve the whole athlete as an individual, and not just look at like their numbers, when it comes to athletics.
It's actually why we came up with the joint slogan, because you can't major in sports. Between their two companies,
Absolutely.
Which is exactly that.
Absolutely.
I remember I was having a conversation a while back with Aaron. He told me about Bo Jackson himself and how he was more of a champion of education. Actually, the interesting story he told me is that Bo didn't even watch Sports Center. Didn't even like watching sports anymore.
Crazy.
Because it's you have these centers, but really it's about getting a good, solid education. Because the truth is, the numbers really state that. Because I was looking up a stat where I guess it's only 10% of all high school athletes going to play college, do something collegiate or sports in college, and then after that, shucks, you can look up the percentages for what's happening at the pro level. It's something like of all Division I college football players, only 3% of them go on to play in the NFL, professional football. For basketball, it's like less than 1% of just Division I. So clearly, there's more to it than just the sport.
Right, but sports can play a really important role in somebody's overall college plan.
Oh,
right?
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think the interesting thing for me, again, as a dad of a baseball player who just committed, is so many of us, I think, go down the path, and so few of us understand how few scholarships there are actually available, especially in a sport like baseball.
Yeah.
We see the bowl games, and we hear about full rides, and we hear about Division I and all these big dreams of shoe deals and wearing the gear and all this other stuff. It's really cool, and that's your dream. But when you really peel that layer back and see the schools, actually, my daughter, the track runner, was just mentioning the other day, because she was looking at the times necessary to qualify for some of the schools that she's potentially looking at, and she also mentioned that they had only so many scholarships for track. Where I think everybody assumes that, if you're on the team, you made a scholarship and it's probably this full ride and it's free. And the reality is that's not true at all. You're in some, especially from the baseball end, there are very few scholarships available. And preferred walk-ons and things like that are actually more realistic. And I think if people had that knowledge going into this process, they'd realize that this is not a meal ticket to get you through school by any means. It's a potential to play for 4 more years.
Yeah,
a sport you love, with teammates and maybe the school that you love. And I know that's what you're passionate about, is getting them in the school that is the best fit. And by the way, if they get a chance to play a sport while they're there, it's even better.
So for our athletes, we just treat it as another piece of the puzzle where, we look at the career, we look at the academic, financial fit, overall comfortability, but the sport is just another component. Much in the same way like we have for musicians where, they want to be in the orchestra or musical theater or anything that's another component to this, that's absolutely the case.
So one of the things I was so thankful for as not just a dad, but and a Dome employee, but also as a customer of College Liftoff, was sitting down with our son and with Aaron and the team and having him walk through, having our son understand what his passion is, and how, here's your passion. Here are some of the schools that best line up with that passion. And then here's baseball for those schools. Here's what division they are. I think for us, we were so late to the game, and that's why I'm so passionate about getting College Liftoff and some of our other partners in front of our teams and our players and our customers as early as possible. As we were so late to the game that we almost reverse engineered it, where he went out and played baseball and found colleges that were interested in him. And then we sat down with Aaron. He told us, okay, these are your passions, and which one of those 4 or 5 schools maybe fits within those passions, where I think if you start that process earlier and actually understand who you are, what you love, what schools are really good at that, now you're especially, let me pause there for a second, because especially if you're not going to be Division I, Division II, Division III, you recruit the school, they don't recruit you.
Yes.
And so, Division I, the Ohio States and the Clemsons of the world, they're coming after you and they're recruiting you.
And you'll know it, by the way. Like,
right.
It's one of those things where it's not going to be a super secret thing. you kind of know when that's happening. But again, to your point earlier, it's not every case by any measure, either which way.
Right. And so you almost have to go out and recruit those schools, let them know you're interested in potentially coming there, those type of things. So if you know who you are, you know what your passions are, you know what the price is and what your parents can afford, I think entering that process earlier with all that understanding will really help a lot of athletes as they look at, I'd really like to go to that school because I love this degree. This is what I want to do with my life. They have baseball. It's whatever division it might be. It fits with who I am. I think entering that process from that side versus where we were almost trying to reverse engineer it, so to speak, you end up at a perfect fit because so many kids either get hurt or the team wasn't what they thought it was going to be, or they just don't want to play. They lose their passion to play. Well, now, and I've talked to parents who are stuck at some university, or they end up transferring. And that's why you see the transfer rates are through the roof with so many college athletes, is because the fit just wasn't there.
Yeah,
so it's so important.
It really is, because I think a lot of fear with families, with athletes, is that at the get-go is that, well, then you're going to completely ignore the sport if you go looking for the right academic situation, where it's absolutely not. In fact, if there is any money that's a part of this equation, whether it be a Division II or III that you're getting, let me rephrase this, if the coach is working on your behalf to get scholarship money, it may not be directly for sport, it may be for other reasons, this and the other, that's why you have to keep your grades up, all these things. That's still money you're getting to help you pay for an education that you can now use in order to take to the next level. So don't discount the education portion of it. Is the long story short of it. Huge. You're going there and you have the ability to get a big discount off of it. Yeah, let's not discount that portion of it. Let's plan for that just as much, especially in an athlete's case.
Sure, 100%.
And that is exactly why we are having an event with Bo Jackson Elite Sports coming up. Do you want to tell us a little bit about it, Aaron?
Yeah, so we do we try 3 times a year to have what's called Success in Sports. They're free events. It's really for the community. It's for our customers and our athletes, our teams, but it's open to the public. And really what we try to do is answer the questions that so often that we're given and that we get. Typically, they're usually centered around sports. So the first one we did was really more scholarship-based. We had some former major league players there and things like that. But this one's a unique bent because it's really what we're talking about. And I think maybe it's because I've had an influence on this one more than any other. But again, I'd love to get this in front of all of our teams, all of our athletes. Like I just said, I want to get that process started early. And so our partnership is so perfect for that. And some of the other featured speakers that night will be so perfect for that. But not only from the college planning, but from the financial planning, from the scholarship and understanding, what it is to be a student athlete, those kind of things. And then just having that resource from one of our counselors at Hilliard Schools is who's going to host this for us. Just having one of the counselors there to be able to speak to what he hears from students and from student athletes. So we're really excited. It's a great night, and it's free to the public and a great opportunity to get a lot of good information. I think it's going to be an exciting event.
Mm-hmm. It's January 29th.
Correct.
At the
Hilliard Darby High School.
Okay. Okay, great.
7 p.m., I believe?
7 p.m. to 9 p.m.
Okay.
You can register on Eventbrite.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, is it just go on Eventbrite and Google, or not Google, but go on Eventbrite and just type in Bo Jackson Elite Sports? Or
we can include the link in the description of this podcast.
Okay.
Yeah, or at our website. It's the very first banner that pops up right now.
Oh, okay,
so
gotcha.
You can't miss it. Yep.
So Bo Jackson, what's the website?
It's bjescolumbus.com.
Okay, perfect.
Like Bo Jackson Elite Sports, bjescolumbus.com.
Excellent.
I want to hear more about the Dome, specifically about the Dome appearing on HBO as of late. I don't watch HBO unless it's Game of Thrones. So
right. It's funny. I'm a cord cutter, so I was shocked at the amount of people that still watch HBO. But yes, we were part of a greater story that was on Real Sports. That was really about the demise of and the cost of travel, and so kids that are being priced out of sport, which was unique for our facility, but it was used as a backdrop. One of our owners has been a part of that conversation, and really is a part of the conversation of helping the situation that has happened with that, and with kids being priced out of sports. So he's actually kind of rallying around that as well. But they used our facility as the backdrop. They came to Hilliard, met with the superintendent of Hilliard Schools. It was a really neat special, and it was really more about society than it was about even our facility or sport in general. It was more or less just people being priced out of sport, and the way that boom has taken place, and making sure that kids are still a part of sports.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah, it was neat to be featured, and like you said, I had a lot of friends call me. I'm like, you guys still have HBO? Like, that was cool back in like high school, but no disrespect to HBO. I know they got great shows. I know I'm part of that cord cutting revolution. So.
Gotcha. No.
Were any parting thoughts just on school with sports and how this whole thing gets constructed? Anything that if you had a parent in front of you that with a think of like an 8-10-year-old or even older, and they're thinking, Johnny's going to be one heck of a football player, and next thing you know, he's going to go play at OSU or Clemson or UCLA or something. But
notice nobody's saying Alabama in this I'm just kidding.
And I didn't say anything. I'm a Carolina fan, so I was happy for the ACC.
Oh.
Yeah.
But you talked about the academics. I think that's what kept me out of Carolina too, was academics.
That's what keeps everybody out of Carolina. Don't worry about it. North Carolina.
I had zero chance of getting in Carolina, but I am a fan of the ACC, so I was happy for Clemson. But yeah, absolutely. No, to your question, I think what I would say is it's the same thing I said when I sat in your office the day that we met for the very first time. And probably this is both dome related and as a parent. And that is, for years my wife mentioned that we should plan financially. And I just, whatever. It'll all be online by then. Blowing it off. And next thing you know, I got a senior or a junior at the time in high school. And yeah, we probably need to take a look at that. And so, we were really late to the game there. So I would say, start there, the financial planning side. Secondly, know your athlete, see what they're good at. What is their passion? What do they love? Because I think a lot of parents so often we played a certain sport, so we want our kids to play that sport, and maybe it's not their sport, or maybe they don't love it, or we can become, and I include myself in this, I was a passionate basketball player, and so when my son was 8, if somebody would ask me, I said, he's gonna be a great basketball player, and he's a good basketball player, but he's going to college on a scholarship for baseball, so probably not what I would have envisioned at 8 o'clock or at 8 years old, and so it is funny how that happens, but I would encourage them to really understand and allow them to be whatever they're going to be, and as they develop, and to your credit for College Liftoff, see who they are outside the lines. Mm-hmm. What's their passion outside the lines? What do they love? Because when they sit down with you all, that's what you're going to ask them. What do you love? What are you really good at that everybody's like, man, you're really good at that. You're like, whatever, it's pretty easy. What are those things? Because that's where really they're going to start to drive. And then don't wait too long to get involved with a college planning, both financial, but also the services that you guys offer. Don't wait too long to do that, because it'll help you kind of guide and direct them as they get into those later years. And don't blink. That would be the last thing I'd say. Is don't blink, because you turn around and it'll all be here, and you want to be ready for it.
Yeah, and it's interesting. I was just having this conversation earlier with somebody, but it's I was talking to a parent where they said, "Oh, well, my kid's going to go to this Ivy League school, and all of a sudden the kid is a sophomore with a 3.7, decent, but in the price tag's in the 70s of the year, and it's so ludicrous that it's fake, right? Until you come up to it and it's actually real.
Right.
And so often in this whole environment, as I talked about at the beginning, we've treated it as like, it's not a thing. It's not real. It's not real money. This isn't a real thing until we actually get to it. Oh, no, it's very real.
Right.
It's very real. And, yeah, the school is asking you to pay an annual salary for one of you.
Right.
To cover this. And, oh, by the way, your athlete is still going to walk out needing a job. Mm-hmm. So we've still got to plan for that too.
Right.
That's just as much a part of the equation, and very much a part. Like that's the end result. So.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And then once they do find that passion, certainly fan that flame. Mm-hmm. Whether it's a facility like ours or any of those type things. Give them all the support that they can.
Yep.
The story that I always tell so many people is I think something I realized early in life was that as a parent. You can provide the nicest bike you can afford, but where they go on that bike and how far and how hard they work to get there, how hard they pedal is 100% up to them.
Yes.
I think a lot of parents give them the bike, but then won't let go of the handlebars, and they're trying to run beside them, and they're trying to push where they should go and help them. When the reality is, give them the bike, you give them the best bike you can afford, and then let them go, and see how far and how hard they work and how fast they get there is completely up to them. And I think if we do that, and sometimes that's a facility like ours, sometimes it's the backyard, wherever it might be, you want to give them the best you can give them within your means, and then see where they go. And let that journey be theirs, not yours.
Yeah, giving them everything they can in order to make good decisions with it. That's a model for you guys at Bo Jackson. That's a model for us at College Liftoff. We just want to arm our kids with the best we can, give them to help them make the most of who they are and the decisions they have in front of them.
Absolutely.
I say this a lot. We won't make decisions for any of our kids, but we'll make sure they have the best information in front of them in order to do it. It's up to them in order to make those decisions.
Yep. Best thing we can do as a parent.
Thanks for coming, Aaron. This has been great. Alexandra, thanks for sitting in with us. We really appreciate this partnership we have with BJE that's going into a couple of years now that we've been doing this, and it's just such a great pairing for both sides of us. So we really appreciate that. Thank you. And again, the event is Success in Sports. It's coming up this January 29th at 7 p.m. at Hilliard Darby High School here in Columbus, Ohio. If you'd like to register for it, remember it's totally free. Feel free to register for it online on their website, bjescolumbus.com, or go to Eventbrite and look for it there. We'll also have it in the description for this podcast also, so you can go straight from there.
Yeah, and I'm thankful too. I'm thankful for our partnership. It's really been perfect, and I know we're just scratching the surface as more and more people realize the valuable service that you all have to offer. I know so many are going to take advantage of it. So we're thankful for the partnership and looking forward to the 29th.
And make sure you check out our next episode. We've grown quite a bit. So we're actually going to be interviewing all the new members of our team.
College Liftoff can help empower you to make college affordable for your student. If you want to learn more about your options, Aaron will be responding directly to your emails. Email him a question at aaron@collegeliftoff.com. Thanks for listening to Affording College with Aaron Green of College Liftoff. If you'd like more information, visit collegeliftoff.com.